So, realism. Does it really matter in an FPS? A lot of people want modern games to strive towards more realism, but a lot of people also seem to be against it. Okay, now let's take a look at Battlefield 3 and Call of Duty, for example. Now, many hate on the fact that a game like COD just flat out sucks because of the fact that it doesn't look realistic and it doesn't really play in a very realistic way. Therefore, they prefer a game like Battlefield 3, where you have these large-scale battles with open environments that have a very lifelike feel to it. But I tend to disagree with this. I don't think the latest Battlefield can be called realistic, and I'm gonna tell you why. But let's go back to COD first. So many aren't really satisfied with the way the COD games look. They haven't really done anything innovative in the graphics department, and the sounds generally don't sound that good. And I just want to make clear, first off, that I'm not a fanboy of either one of these games. I do prefer one over the other. By the way, it's not Call of Duty. but I am gonna defend Call of Duty here in the graphics department. On the current gen consoles, so on your 360s, your PS3s, all the COD games pretty much run at the frame rate of around 60 FPS. Now the PS3, it does run at a slower frame rate, but that's just due to the fact that the game is developed around the 360s architecture, and it's not very simple to port it over to the PS3's special little chip. And we all know that the hardware on current gen consoles is quite outdated, and the devs are extremely limited with what they can actually do on today's system. So if you want to make a game run at 60 FPS on consoles, you're gonna have to make a lot of sacrifices, like dumbing down the graphics or downscale to a lower resolution. You're also limited with the player and model counts, as well as how physics act in the game. So right now, I'm absolutely sure that the Call of Duty we see today is the best looking Call of Duty we're ever gonna see running on current gen consoles, unless they decide to take time to build a more efficient engine and cut the frame rate in half. But that would be a big no-no in my opinion, because I believe a big part of Call of Duty's success today is the fact that the game can actually run at 60 FPS on consoles. But I believe that the lack of innovation right now that we see with the Call of Duty games, it will come back and bite the people behind Call of Duty in the ass, because when the next-gen consoles come out, it's going to open a lot more doors for other developers to make great competitive SPS shooters that can hit the 60 FPS mark and still bring a visually strong title. Because although graphics, they don't matter in terms of gameplay, but graphics still sells. Now, going back to the Battlefield franchise, now we have seen impressive innovation from DICE. The way they were able to build and design the Frostbite engine, I mean, don't forget, they did a terrific job at making that engine run on consoles. I mean, Battlefield 3 is a beautiful game, and it focuses more, like I said before, on big-scale battles, and it kind of gives us the possibility to use vehicles, and they motivate us to work as a team. And I also have to mention this, the sound design in this game is just amazing. But that's pretty much every Battlefield title. I just love the sound design in those games. Now, the gameplay also focuses more on teamwork, like I already said, and you will do better in the game if you pair up with a buddy or play with a full squad that you can communicate with. So you got that, Call of Duty is more focused on you doing well, and Battlefield is more focused on your team or your squad doing well in the game. And when it comes to weapons in Battlefield 3, you really do need skill in order to be successful with them. You need to be able to control or counter recoil and master the bullet physics. And when combining all of those things in Battlefield 3, you don't necessarily get a realistic game. However, you do get a game that feels realistic, and that is the future, I believe. That is what's going to be the standard in the future. You don't want to be playing a game like let's say Arma, right? A military simulator, because then things would get boring really fast. I'm sure a lot of you guys would like that, including myself. But most of the time, I like myself a fast-paced tactical shooter that's not too realistic. And if you really look at the way Battlefield 3 plays, I'm sure a lot of you Battlefielders out there will know this. Battlefield isn't exactly realistic in terms of gameplay mechanics. Just look at the way you move and the way vehicles handle, right? If you were to compare that to real life or to, let's say, Arma, which is pretty much the best simulator out there right now. You should check Arma 3 out, by the way. It's a really good game. It just looks as arcadey as COD does. but the game does feel realistic in a very cinematic way, and that's what puts a game like Battlefield 3 in a whole different category of different shooters. And of course, I get that not everyone can appreciate the way Battlefield plays, but if they were to implement new game modes and find a better balance between the big, large-scale maps and the more close-quarters urban warfare maps, and on top of that you throw in the ability of being able to run at 60 FPS on next-gen consoles, you would have a pretty strong COD contender, because I'm sure that if Battlefield 3 or even the latest Medal of Honor would have been able to run at 60 FPS on consoles, you know, both games would have done a lot better, just due to the fact that the overall experience would have been better and felt more familiar with the fast-paced action that console players currently enjoy on COD. And I'm sure you have noticed that my voice is totally fucked right now. But yeah, what do you guys think? Should a game be realistic, or should it just have that realistic feel to it? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below.